Some of my neighbors here, you can look like their windows face directly into the construction zone, and all those balconies face in, and all they're staring at is a building under construction.
In the first quarter of this year, new condo sales in the GTHA have plummeted to levels not seen since the global financial crisis. That from the latest report from Urban Nation. That report goes on to paint a gloomy picture for pre-sales as well. On average, during the same time frame, pre-construction projects were only 50% pre-sold, down from 61% a year ago and 85% 2 years earlier. With that, we're seeing more of this. Stalled projects sitting like this redevelopment on Russell Hill Road untouched for years. Maddie Simyateki is a professor of geography and planning at the University of Toronto and says the timing is not good for a market slump.
Toronto and other cities across Canada are depending on the construction of housing units to address housing affordability.
Do we find developers by and large are pausing or stalling projects because it's not a good enough scenario for them, or because their business model is genuinely in jeopardy?
They can't start because the financial returns are not significant enough to make the project viable. Developers, we often hear, do have high return expectations, and that has been a point of frustration. And there's also a lot of risk that comes along with development. And now we're going to see who's able to weather out the stormy periods.
If you have a lot of stalled projects midway scattered throughout the city at a time when we're looking at how we're using the land, is that a threat to how much we could build?
It's a big risk at the local level for communities, and we have seen stories recently of some stalled projects where literally it's a shell of a building with fencing around it. So these projects can sit stalled for some period of time, and that isn't good for communities.
I have a dog, so we're out a lot, and then having all the dirt and construction and stuff, you know, for her pads, like paws walking through, just trying to get into stuff if it's laying around.
You know, borrowing costs in general have kept a lot of would-be buyers on the sideline.
Meanwhile, the Toronto Real Estate Board says this latest slump still fits within historical trends, also noting the market for single-family detached and large luxury homes is ticking up.
You know, different segments of the market, people at different points in their life are impacted differently by, you know, a higher interest rate environment.
He says while sticky inflation has made the future outlook murky, he's still hoping for some relief later this year.
I think the odds still are that we will start to see the Bank of Canada cut this year, you know, by potentially not as much as what we might have thought.
As for a silver lining, Simyateki says the easing labor shortage in construction may present an opportunity
to build public or affordable housing or non-market housing.
On Russell Hill Road, David Zura, City News.